Yes, I've experienced pain every day for over 20 years by now. And people ask me, Gideon, how can you be so positive after all these surgeries, complications, and all the pain? Here I want to show you, totally honest, what helped me in 4 steps. And to start right away, I want you to know that pain management itself played only a small part. And to be even more honest, no, I'm not always positive. Of course not. If you suffer from chronic pain, you know what I'm talking about. Hi, I'm Gideon from Pain.PAUSE.LIVE. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and pain coach from Germany, and I developed a program to help you live better with chronic pain. If you're interested, just click on the link in the description of this video. As many others in my profession, I suffer from chronic pain too. It all started with a fatal car crash in 1989, and I barely survived it. This car accident ripped me out of life and left me with chronic pain after 25 surgeries, multi-resistant bacteria infections, and other complications. I went through a lot of ups and downs that most people I work with also know, going through a big range of pharmacological treatments of the pain, from totally numbing to not helping at all. I was never really content with its workings. Besides, I developed a frequent migraine, which isn't really fun either. Nevertheless, I always followed direction in life that were really important to me. Today, I have a wonderful family, do a job I love, and found out the things that really matter to me in my life. In this video, I want to show you exactly the 4 steps I took. Step 1, pushing pause and noticing. The first thing I learned is to actually hold still and notice what's going on inside of me. In the hospital, where I spent a lot of time as a patient, I had plenty of time to find out. Learning to push the inner pause button in order to notice what's going on is utterly important. Because we humans do so much automatically and always miss the moment we're actually in. Our heads are always somewhere else, and more so when we're in pain, right? This is mainly because we don't want to be here when it hurts. But I learned that if I want to change something, I have to push the pause button and know what's going on. This is the first step. It's like turning off autopilot. If you don't know what's going on, you'll never get a foot in the door of changing something. By the way, if you want to learn to push the pause button, just sign up for our newsletter and you'll get your first exercise to do that for free. The link is in the description of the video. Step 2, acceptance. The second part was pretty hard for me to find out because I didn't know how to do it back then, and everybody was telling me to run away from the pain. This wasn't useful. I got totally entangled with my fight against the pain. Never again I took so much medication as during these times. But acceptance is not about giving up. It's all about accepting the situation as it is. Not because it's nice or good by any means. No, just because there's nothing else right now. And if you want to change direction, you should know from where you start. Maybe you heard this before. If so, let me know down in the comments. Acceptance is way easier said than done, and it all came to me when thinking about what alternative I do have, and there was just this big emptiness because I already figured out that fighting the pain brought me more pain and suffering in the long run. It was a little bit like putting my hand on my heart, standing up for myself and saying, okay, that's the way it is right now. How do I get on with it? But this has been tough because every few weeks or months another bad news showed up and the next surgery was on the way. Sometimes it was like taking one step ahead and 2 steps back and starting anew. My head had been telling me all the time that what I couldn't do anymore, ignoring badly all the things that I could do. So by pushing the pause button, noticing and accepting my awful situation, I actually managed to gain some inner freedom to pick up a new direction in life. But wait, there's more to come about this in the last part of the video. Step 3, life directions. Since I had been very active before the accident, there was one thing that was absolutely out of discussion: not being active again. Yep, I start with a biggie here. All my doctors didn't believe in my ability to ever walk again. I put every drop of sweat into it. And though I am disabled and my walking looks a bit crooked, I love to go on short hikings. Of course, I had some wonderful physiotherapists who helped me and understood quickly that it wasn't about trigger point massages and so on, but about activity. By the way, one thing we know for sure today is that active physiotherapy helps better in most forms of chronic pain than passive physiotherapy. Before the accident, I did a lot of running, dancing, martial arts. Yeah, right? That's me before the accident. I lost all that and will never be able to do it like that again. It took me a long time of mourning about this, but eventually new doors opened. And now I can go by bike, I can do yoga and the like. For me, this is close enough. I even tried playing tennis, but it's not possible for a longer time than 20 to 30 minutes. Then I have to sit down for the rest of the day. And dancing is still fun, but I lost a lot of elegance. You see, movement is quite important for me. It's a sign of vitality and life. So even today, after 2 decades, I go to physiotherapy about every year or so to help me to keep going. While all this happened, I was still in the last semesters of university. The next plan was to finish university and start working, no matter what. Since I already worked in a part-time job with children suffering from migraine and tension-type headache at university, my own fate got me into the field of pain therapy deeper and deeper. What was honestly pretty easy, as long as the medication didn't interfere, was my meditation practice. Since I didn't have to move too much for it, I could easily pick it up in the early stages after the accident and have plenty of time for it. This didn't help me just a bit, but for a long time, it was the main factor that enabled me to move forward. Since we know from science today that this really helps with chronic pain, I did the right steps subconsciously. Of course, you'll find a lot of these exercises in the program of Pain.PAUSE.LIVE. I'd never say that it was easy, but looking back, I'd say every step has been worth taking. Even though not every step turned out the way I wanted to be. Of course, there were a lot of failures and things I could have spared out, but I didn't know back then. Step 4. Being friends with my own body. This one is closely linked to acceptance. During the course of life, we get used to the way our body is functioning, and we are always puzzled when this suddenly stops, right? The same holds true for me. I was used to my body as a very well-working machine, and suddenly I couldn't put one foot in front of the other. I vividly remember one scene in the hospital where I was lying in bed, one leg hung up on the external fixation and the other one was in a cast, and everything the doctors didn't turn out like they wanted it to. They stood around my bed and I thought, well, just a few broken bones. They should mend within the next weeks. Filled with optimism, I asked, sorry, when can I get back to training again? You know what it's like when there are about 12 people in the room and there's this awkward silence? This was exactly it. It's been like, okay, the first one to move or speak has lost. After a while, one of the doctors in the back looked over the shoulders of the others and asked, "Chess, Mr. Frank?" Yes, let that sink in. They just didn't believe I'd ever walk again, and nobody dared to tell me. At this point, I got so enraged. I was so mad at the doctor who said that. But on the other hand, I got a huge load of motivation out of it because I wanted to prove them wrong, and I started to fighting my way back into my life. This wasn't all that bad, but I overlooked that I started to also fight the pain in my body. Didn't trust it anymore, calling it names whenever it again quit its service on me. I looked at it as being broken, trash, unrepairable, unreliable, the absolute opposite of what I experienced before. No, I didn't hate my body, but a rather difficult relationship became more and more apparent, and I didn't know any better than to fight. But did you ever think about who you are actually fighting when you're fighting your pain? Exactly, yourself. Pain is no virus, it's no bacteria, it's no outer enemy. It's a way of functioning in dangerous situations for your health. We can be successful when we fight outer enemies, but if there's no such enemy, I had to learn it the hard way. It took me some time to understand how this works. It took me some time to understand that it is a relationship I have with my own body, and if I want a better life, it's not very wise to fight it, call it names and so on. Just imagine you'll treat your best friend like your body. How long will it still be your friend? This was the dilemma I had been stuck with. Realizing it, I understood that my body wasn't mean, didn't want to put me a leg. It worked very hard, did its best to heal, get back into balance. It just couldn't do any better in this situation. So actually, instead of fighting or forcing it to things that were just too much, I realized it was time to treat it with compassion and softness. Don't run away from it. Don't drown it in numbness as I did, but instead treating each other with respect. A lot of this, again, I learned from a physiotherapist. After a wonderful session of breath work, she gave me some assignments for the time until we'd meet again. It was a time after a big and long surgery, and I had been terribly frustrated. She turned to me and said, "I know you don't like your right leg right now. I can see it when we talk, and I can feel it when I touch it. Here comes homework for you. Every day, you caress your leg for a couple of minutes. Be gentle and caress it like you mean it. Your body is working hard. Don't make it even harder." In the beginning, it was so embarrassing to do this. Even though I was alone in the room, I was always looking around if somebody might see me caressing my leg. But when I did, my body responded, and I started to relax, and the pain got less intense. What happened there? In my other videos, I'll talk a lot of the workings in the brain. Here I want to be a little bit more psychological. It was my body that told me, yes, this is so good. I need this. So I started to look at other moments when my body reached out and told me, hey, that's good right now. I was always so consumed with what I wanted that I totally forgot to ask my body what would be a nice treat for it. It's been like making your body a good friend again, and still is. Sometimes I don't listen to it, but it'll tell me, not very subtle, when I stress it too much. Learning that being friends with your body doesn't mean that you're always deeply in love with what's going on, but it's about accepting it and treating it with respect, acknowledging its needs, and understanding that a mean body, though our minds often tell us things like that, doesn't even make sense in a biological level. An organism does everything to survive, so from an evolutionary point of view, it's not very probable that it wants to slowly destroy itself. There's no evidence for it. Sometimes it can't do any better, but it's never a volitional act. And the only way out is coming closer to your body and its sensations. Why? Because only by this you'll be able to move in a direction in your life you value. So it's all about living your life despite the pain. If you like this video, click or tap on subscribe down below here and leave me a comment if you can relate to anything I talked about. Happy to take a step into life with you.